remember it, it was around, mainly in early games like Mercenaries, which was really a sort of tie-in with tech. I am Couchcoop, by the way, and developers just enjoying that freedom with destruction mechanics. This video is really going to be about the metamorphosis that games have gone through in the last sort of 5 to 7 years with online only microtransactions and sort of trying to push a login everyday lifestyle to you. More grind than fun, I feel, with a lot of new AAA games. A few older titles really do ring true. The Red Faction, and there's a remaster of that, which I probably need to look at. There's also the Saboteur, which is over on EA through Game Pass, which is a nightmare. If you can be asked with that app, go for it. This 4 to 5 year sentiment also ties in with YouTube and its algorithm and what it looks for and what people look for when it comes to thumbnails and theme. I recently got to binge watch the entire new season of Black Mirror, and of course Joan is Awful very much stood out to me as a content creator. If you haven't seen it, I'm not going to spoil it, but it points to the age-old argument that negativity really is the way forward when it comes to traffic or clout. You may catch me sometimes commenting on other larger creator videos. I call them like digital dustbin divers, and they're just really people that regurgitate negative problems or stuff that's wrong with things. There's no real creation there, or positivity for that matter. Every single one of them is met with gleaming feedback and massive views from the algorithm, more importantly. When the channel first started, I was lucky enough to get hold of titles literally a few days before they were officially released, and it was get it out for the clout. And I remember reviewing Just Cause 4 in literally an evening, and seeing those views the next morning was just amazing. But of course it was a very shallow take on the game. It had a lot of problems back then as well. We can feast our eyes on the PlayStation 5 version and look at this barely zero pop-in and great detail for a game of its age. Swinging back to the Joan is Awful argument and the negativity, clout and traffic case, it's a story as old as time itself, really. You've only got to look back at when newspapers were physical. I can't wait for that to come to an end. And you would have tabloid press headlines, and they'd be really smutty, grabby, sort of barely literate, sort of 3-word, scandalous, eye-grabbing headlines. And we see exactly the same thing coming to fruition now with sort of modern YouTube. It has almost become like a magazine shelf with the thumbnail system. You are never going to get anywhere with how great is X, Y, and Z, or didn't they do a brilliant job with ABC? No. You have to fire a shot over the bow. You have to say something mean or put an accusation out or dissect something that was not good. And that doesn't bode well with me. I'm very guilty of when I first came to the platform, going to content creators like Angry Joe and like Video Game Nerd, because I wanted that sort of vicious take on a product, but you soon grow tired of it. And as a creator, it becomes annoying to see other creators excel forward because they're just picking problems in something that may have taken developers a very long time to put together. I've also reaped reward from this psychology with the Cyberpunk patch reviews. As I've always said, if that game worked and was pristine on day one, I would not really still have a channel that runs. It got me over 500,000 views, and I just don't see that traffic anywhere else. How do you fix this? You can't really. It's kind of locked in descent now, and as a content creator, I try and do my part by not dancing to the popularity tune. YouTube's studio will always say, look what's trending, look what you need to start making video about, and be nothing to do with anything I'm interested in. I'm interested in you as an audience that I've won already, the 16,000 people I've got on board, and I'm interested in the stuff I want to see on screen and talk about. And if those two align, brilliant. But I'm not going to start changing the direction of the channel because I'm so desperate, thirsty for these views. There's integrity comes into play here. Keeping on the subject of integrity and moving towards the developers and big modern day developers, people like Activision and also some of the more recent EA material, you can see that they're not really interested in the whole adventure of gaming anymore. The whole sort of not destructive fun, but idea of being able to sort of really lose yourself in a sort of new and detailed, well-built world. A good example of this is the first Destiny was absolutely mind-blowing and really really a console launcher. It was huge, and it followed up with its sequels and DLC not very well with switching out what you were looking at or fighting. And I remember by Destiny 2, by maybe the third DLC pack, I sort of swore never to shoot a Vex again. It was in the millions, and they just kept pushing them out on different levels. It was just so lazy. And that brings me on to COD and a lot of the destruction mechanics and the Modern Warfare maps, and everything is so bolted down. What's the reason for that? For a developer to just put a brick wall in that doesn't move around or destruct or even chip. Laziness. They can't be asked to redo that code. They'd rather just use the same old engine again and roll out the same crap. So I don't get involved in that. And that's why you notice that I love new IPs, I love single player content, and I love going back and looking at games that don't adhere to those rules. One of the cooler, newer games that really fought through a terrible public relations nightmare was Battlefield 2042. Despite its terrible issues with loads of its performance, it's one of the few shooter franchises that actually bothers giving you a realistic environment, really cool vehicles, and just randomization that keeps you coming back, not a microtransaction or a grind that you may or may unlock next time you log into that game. That also got me thinking about the Just Hold Up series, and loads of those games, particularly Mad Max, don't adhere to any of that. And that's when stuff really stands out. You'll notice that, is that when they go against the grain with micros or don't have stupid bits of paid DLC or even an annoying online service, they kind of do quite well. And it hurts me to say it, but that's probably why Starfield is not doing crap at the moment. Let's talk for a bit about Just Cause 4, because it's from the Avalanche Studio, and they of course gave us the Mad Max game. And going back to this, after playing it, I remember on a base level PlayStation 4, that was the system I was using when I first reviewed this. It was a shocking launch. This game is so polished now. There's a very large patch update on installation, and I'm not too sure about any PlayStation 5 backwards compatibility officially, but if you're seeing what I'm seeing, this is a very different looking game to that launch way back in 2018. Now this rolls me onto another point, and there's an exception game to this rule, because this game I'm going to talk about has been out so long that it encompasses this whole change in creativity that we see now in AAA games. And it's GTA 5. And the prophecy of this game having some of the best destruction mechanics on Earth, on console, on its day of launch came true, and it's held that damn crown for nearly half a decade. Some games have come very close, and Just Cause 4, with its offline capabilities and single player options, kind of beats it in areas, but when it comes to online fun with your chums in a huge map and vehicles and destructive mechanics, GTA 5 can't really be beaten. Other developers and publishers, studios must be looking over at Rockstar's numbers with such annoyance. They are still holding that crown, and it's because they bothered making a half-decent world. We don't need to lean on to the cyberpunk analogy where the world was built, but again, no content put in it, or no working content. Nintendo, bless its black and white cotton socks, is still clinging on to some of this single player nostalgia, and Tears of the Kingdom is a damn good example of how something can just come out of the gate. Loads of people must be in the same position as me, really needing some good single player offline content to get their teeth into, and it's one of the platform's better game series, so it smashed it, and rightly so. I hope that the industry starts recognizing that single player offline content will always be around and will always technically be needed. It's just a damn shame that YouTube doesn't recognize that at the moment. I was watching a far bigger YouTuber's view on this game. Now, they shall remain nameless, but basically their take on it was that all of this stuff to do and it's a boring game. And they were pointing towards the campaign not really offering you enough. It was always just a stun or a fetch quest or go and hack some computer. And they do have a point there to a certain extent. When you start looking at the meat of what Just Cause is on a story and campaign level, there's not loads there. It's really all about what they've populated this map with. I'm also not sure what that individual was expecting. Just Cause 3 was a great game, but it wasn't world renowned for its groundbreaking prose, storyline, or sort of twists, anything like that. And standing in the video game store and having that thought through your head as you go to clasp your new copy of Just Cause 4 that is, I hope it's got a really good story and that the character's really, really well developed. No, you just want to shoot down helicopters and fly around on your Batwing thing and just be a badass. And Just Cause 4 totally allows you to do that. Too much. There's too much to blow up and get your head round, and accolades to win over on that map, which is too big. How often do you complain about that sort of stuff? This video was supposed to be a still holds up, but I'm not sure what I'm going to call it yet. And 7 years on the platform, 7.5 million views, 16,000 subscribers. It's a journey that I'm growing quite tired of now. It's becoming more and more difficult to get traction. The year's been absolutely awful. So if you're new or if you haven't looked at my older stuff, by all means, have a butcher's, because I think this might be coming up to sort of the end of our little YouTube stint. I say little, coming up to a decade. No sponsor offers, no real promotional deals, no real revenue coming in from a lot of the YouTube ads, so it's just a flat line at the moment. And I'm just about to put out one of my largest local co-op videos. It's going to be top shooters, full stop. So we've got a lot of downloading to do. I have to organise Lewis in. It will be out as soon as possible, I promise. We've also had the release of Baldur's Gate 3, Michael, which again goes against the grain of all that aforementioned crap we've had to talk about. And my God, has it been recognised for it. And we should have got shares in that studio, because you called that about 2 years ago. So top marks, mate, and I will get it. It's a couch co-op, turn-based, amazing piece of software. I've got to get to it before the end of the year. Hopefully, I'll have a better month next month, and we'll see if we can get it in on new purchase. So I have been the Couch Coop, and I will, of course, see you all down there.